Hello, welcome back everyone to another episode from this ongoing playlist podcast, Reigniting the Fragments of the Fourth Way with Mihai and Peter Ingle. There is the whole link here where you find all the episodes, and our aim is to discuss both theoretically as well as from the point of view of applying key knowledge points from the fourth way, non-duality tradition, not just as a philosophical exercise, but as a way to offer a practical map for people who are interested to delve in using these maps of the fourth way, non-duality, for the purposes of becoming more conscious, more often, deeper, and free ourselves from ultimately free ourselves from this painful, torturous, illusory, imaginary I that we all operate from, and all humanity, that comes with this fear of dying, fear of living, lying, hiding, pleasing, getting approval, taking things personally, wanting reality to conform to the narcissistic ideas. Yeah, and this is episode 26. And for the last two episodes, episode 24 and 25, we tackled a topic that it turned out to be juicier than we expected. And this is part 3 on this topic of lying. And lying in the fourth way, it is an obstacle to self-consciousness and something we need to investigate and ultimately diminish in order for the big I, the real self, to have air, to breathe and live. We recommend we go to the previous two ones, and I'm not going to rehash what we talked there. But what was left as a final, hopefully final topic on this topic is this. And I want to say here, that besides the fourth way and non-duality maps that we are using, as well as our experience with it, this is an experiential talk. We are not talking from the head. We are using the head, but we did our best to apply and verify these ideas. I have no choice, and I cannot help but be informed by my experience of years and hundreds of thousands of hours of working with people one-on-one as a somatic psychotherapist. And a lot of these people that I worked with, they were not interested in fourth way or in awakening. And a lot of these people that I work with, they were interested in the fourth way and in awakening. And I have discovered there are certain core universal patterns of suffering that everybody that came to me was dealing with, and I cannot just talk about the fourth way and non-duality without referring to my actual so-called clinical experience, which I don't like this term, but it's a way of bringing awareness to that suffering, that pattern, that thought, feeling pattern. All right, what was left from the previous talks, and as a part of an insidious form of lying, which is deeply subconscious, is this area that is quite popular these days in mental health or the new agey culture or various new agey self-improvement traditions and teachings, this area of being authentic. We hear this a lot: be authentic, be real, honor yourself. This area of authenticity. And I have noticed with everybody, really everybody, to some degree, as well as in myself, that there is a whole layer or dynamism, psychological, emotional, energetic, mental, not of the inability to be authentic. And the fact that just wanting to be authentic is not enough. And yeah, we are addressing this area of what is this, what are the causes of this lack of authenticity, or as Shakespeare will give this advice in one of his plays, to thine own self be true, and thus you will be true to everybody. Not being able to be true to myself, not being able to be authentic. What are the causes of it? How is it formed? How is it developed? We will see there is some basic innocence behind it, rather than a pathologizing or something wrong or rotten in us, as well as what are the effects of this. Because people will come to me often suffering with a lot of feelings and thoughts and symptoms and addictions, but underneath there was this, the pain of not being able to be authentic. As well as we'll aim towards at least laying a foundation, theoretical foundation, how to understand that, how to unpack it, and how to change the situation. Well, I would just like to, because this term inauthenticity and being real, it's thrown in everyday life and it's vague and mysterious. And although it seems simple and everybody knows what it means, but we don't. I'd like to unpack this a little bit from the fourth way, non-dual Zen perspective. And we have talked before about this idea of essence and false personality. And in a nutshell, the fourth way tradition shares that when we are born, there is this sense of being, which is unaware of itself. And then in this being, there's this unique configuration. Like Mihai, there is something true and natural and organic and authentic. The authentic nature of Mihai is different than authentic nature or flavor or configuration of Peter and of any of the listeners of this video. And this unique configuration is an individual expression of this being, divine energy. It is this divine energy or conscious presence, but it's not just a conscious. At some level, there is this ultimate foundational self, which is the ground of being, that which is aware, perceiving, which is the same in all of us, Peter and myself and the listeners. So that is the essential Buddha nature, the true identity, which in the teachings they are saying that is actually one and it's shared. And we are all, Peter and Mihai, sharing this essential being as being the same one. Therefore, I'm talking to myself here. And you are listening to yourself. However, within this essential ultimate sense of identity, that has a certain coloring and a certain flavoring and a certain aroma, and that is connected to this body and some of this DNA and some physical qualities, tendencies, emotional tendencies, qualities, weaknesses, various tendencies and proclivities, which form this unique expression of the Buddha nature. And this we call essence in the fourth way. And then what the fourth way says, and a lot of other psychological, even psychotherapeutical modalities and schools of psychotherapy, they are saying that, well, this starts to be conditioned and layered and programmed with a lot of other information, which has nothing to do with our true configuration, ways we are supposed to be, that we learn from society, from the mother, from the father, from TV. We are told either directly or indirectly, implicitly, how I'm supposed to be as a man or as a good boy. And there are all these layers of conditioning. Then this conditioned Buddha nature is walking around life and is shocked by events and things. Dad is drinking and leaves, or I'm beaten, or the parents are fighting, or the school system is very strict and rigid, and somehow within this conditioned already personality, now they are more coming in through wounding, in which way we developed more sense of identity as I'm something wrong with me, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm not safe, poor me, or oh, I'm so better than you guys. So there are all of these, through different avenues, we get this download of conditioned programs that form also ways in which we adapt. We adapt to our environment in order to survive, to get love and to get approval, to get ahead, to avoid being yelled at or beaten, to get praise. These are some strategic adaptations that come along, and all of these, they form what's called a fourth way personality or false personality. And in the teachings, they say that in the West, almost without exception, by the age of 6 or 7, our essence, what we truly are as a unique expression, this essence gets so overwhelmed and flooded and keeps happening like this as become a teenager, an adult, that pretty soon the essence becomes passive and dormant, or just a little bit active, and the personality self and the conditioned self becomes active, and this is running the show, and that's what's happening. And also consciousness being unaware of itself, this lack of self-remembering, lack of self-knowledge, and this low state of consciousness. Now everybody's in false personality, being asleep from the point of view of consciousness. And in the fourth way, the way to go is to engage in this jump-starting our Buddha nature through attention, controlling attention, sustaining attention, observing ourselves, witnessing, being aware of being. We are developing this aspect, having the light more on. At the same time, we are the path is to observe this false personality and to resist, struggle against certain mechanical patterns of identity, and bring self-remembering to them, self-observation, and gradually this false personality will diminish, akin to in a company that initially the false personality is the CEO. It has 80% of shares. Through this work in the fourth way, this diminishes, and since the personality is not so oppressive and not so in charge, through this presence, self-observation work, and struggling with reactivity, with this inner considering, with unnecessary talk, with other forms of lying, our initial configuration has time to breathe, and it starts to become more active. So instead of being false personality active, we have now more the work active, inner work active, and then essence this way is rescued. And then this keeps going, that false personality diminishes more and more, and our essence is what's true about Mihai, starts to be imbued with presence, with work. And then what is called awakening, the various stages of shift of consciousness, they can happen only from what is true in ourselves. We cannot awaken we cannot awaken from false personality. Somehow the false personality needs to die or be starved to a large degree. In essence, the authentic nature needs to be more online. And in the deepening of that, essence, so to say, awakens. And anything to do with inauthenticity, not being able to be real, not being able to say no, when somebody asks me something and I no, that's my initial response is hopefully that's an inner authentic response. I can't honor this no, so I say yes when I have a no, and vice versa. Or I got to put boundaries. I want to put boundaries, but I can't put boundaries. I want to say something, but I can't say it. I'm sad, but I'm afraid to feel it. I'm hurt, but I stuff it and I don't share with the other person. All of this is false personality. And in order to progress on the awakening path, that needs to be investigated just for awakening purposes, but also in terms of healing. Still a lot of people I work with, they are not interested in awakening. They are interested to suffer less though. And it is possible to diminish a lot of this unnecessary suffering through investigating and diminishing these patterns of inauthenticity and fostering permission and modeling. I'm modeling being more real, being more authentic, being more in my essence, which is unusual in everyday life because everybody is false personality. So even without awakening lofty goal, a lot of psychotherapeutical work is to help the client be more in touch with what's true, about what's true in the deepest way. I found it necessary to give this context. We understand what is the context of the work and what is this inauthenticity pattern, where there's always a me, I can't, I have to hide, me, I have to be careful, it's not okay to say this, me, I'm afraid to tell the person, no man, I don't want to give you a ride, you're taking advantage of me. Can't say that. And then I say, yeah, sure, I will make time for you. There's a lot of this me as an imaginary I that is, but feels very real to us, that is snared in this inauthenticity as well as the history of it.
And it doesn't rationalize this way in the moment. It's not having that conversation with itself the way you just described. It's a instantaneous combination of instinctive, emotional, psychological adjustment that happens in the moment. And it's this fear, we don't want to say no. There's a lot of things going on here that happen all together at once, very quickly. And it's not thought. It's a habit, and it's a habit of all of our centers, and it's a habit of this imaginary sense of I that has learned to, oddly enough, fortify itself by protecting itself.
Yeah.
And then what we see is the lying. What's interesting about this subject of lying too is that's the visible part. We see the lie happen. We can feel ourselves lying. And then it's by virtue of starting to observe this, it's a little bit similar to negative emotions. You then start tracing them back. Where did this come from? What's behind it? And this takes more conscious observation to see that.
Yeah. I guess in other terminology, all of this is quick. It's subconscious, unconscious. It's this saying, yes, I'll help you, when actually I really don't, and I don't have time, and actually It doesn't feel good that you are taking advantage of me. You've been doing this for a long time. But this is fast, and in the moment, we just see the top of the iceberg of this quick choice that feels off, but then I'm going with it. Underneath, there's a whole iceberg, and I would like to unpack a little bit of this iceberg. Because if we are now fighting this inauthenticity at this level, we are not seeing the roots, and we are going to fail. And then we are going to the inability to be authentic and trying to be authentic without knowing it's the underbelly now reinforces now some other false identity that there's something wrong with me. And then this going against myself, not honoring what's really true at the level of the essence, it creates a lot of internal pressure. And then I need to avoid people now. That's what happens. I am avoiding people. I don't trust people, or I need to smoke weed or drink vodka or do all kind of stuff to escape the energy of the whole this cocktail. And then those very manifestations, I feel bad about it. And then it's like, man, yeah, something wrong with me. Therefore, yeah, what's important to understand that there is this basic innocence, as I said at the beginning, and this inauthenticity starts very early on. If you can imagine, the little you doesn't know how the work works, and there are all these big people, mommy and daddy and sisters in the house, in the school, and depending on how the parents are or the conditions are, we have some natural, our essence. When we're young, it's just essence. We don't have all of this, the fears, and we don't have, am I okay? Is it okay? It's just natural little creature you see in toddlers. But at some point, something happens where we are loud and exuberant and happy, and then daddy is irritated and it shouts at us because we are disturbing the game on TV. Or the child now, as a young child, is crying, is sad because somebody, he felt hurt, and then daddy sits him down and says, listen, like real boys, they don't cry. You have to be strong. You have to be strong. You can't show this to anybody. You have to be strong. And then essence, being totally gullible and naive and impressionable, is designed to be like that. Then the little boy gets the message that, oh, sadness is bad. I shouldn't show it. I need to be strong. You see? And then this initially happens at the emotional level, that we get as a message that this emotion is not okay, is disapproved by. And then when we are kids, what happens is that there is this choice to choose authenticity or to choose belonging, love and approval. And for a kid, this choice is not available. Basically, it will always choose to belong and get love and approval and safety. And then this authenticity is pushed out, is made wrong. And then basically, in order to feel safe emotionally, or in order to get praise or to get approval, to get attention, which is essential in the early stages of development of essence. Essence early on needs to be seen, felt, loved, touched, held. You're okay. So we are innocently becoming in a different way. This is what's called the strategic adaptation. Everybody, there's a little bit of the beginning of the false personality in some way, where there's a strategic adaptation, and they can take different forms. where I'm becoming a little different than what's natural, and I am quiet. Some ways to get really quiet and guarded. I had this quiet and guarded and cautious to avoid anybody being upset with us. Or some other people become super funny and charming because there is so much conflict in the house and violence. But if the little 5-year-old girl feels all of this animosity and tensions, and then discovered that if she's funny and sweet, then the adults, they're like, they're laughing a little bit, and then dispels some of the tension. So then we develop this thing, oh, I'm funny and sweet and charming, that is good. It helps with the situation. Or I'm now doing all the chores in the house. I'm trying to be perfect. Somehow trying to be perfect and to be very good. Somehow love needs to be earned through performing and grades, and if you get a B or something, there is disapproval, and if there's an A, then the child gets the message that I'm okay. So these patterns of comes from some type of wounding and adapting to the environment of hiding, lying, being funny, needing to be perfect, needing to be always happy, needing to not show my emotions, needed to be strong, needed to be helpful. I need to be helpful, being helpful. And then this develops as a pattern that this is what is expected of me, and this is what is a protection from worse situation. And then this is practiced and it becomes a groove. And then this now plays out this producing pattern, being efficient all the time, achieving stuff all the time. But it's the little girl playing out this scenario.
It can also take the form of being the renegade, being the tough person, being the young boy, 7 years old, defying all the adults, joining a gang, now bullying people. It's a similar thing that's happened. Essence doesn't feel as though it can be genuine, sensitive, thoughtful, kind, loving toward others because it's taught, no, you need to be tough, buddy. You need to get out there on the street. You need to earn some money. You need to take advantage of people. You need to manipulate them at every turn. You need to show how tough you are. And this is these other encrustations of personality that start to surround essence. And it's funny if you take two people, let's say you take a gang member, and then you take somebody who had a very difficult home situation where there was a lot of drinking or drugs or beating of the child, something. One has their tail between their legs and is withdrawn psychologically in many ways. The other one is got the toughest shell you can imagine and is willing to stand up and fight anyone for anything and not show any fear. And ironically, the essence in the two people is exactly the same. It's more similar than those two extreme manifestations of their personality are different. And in our essence, we are all very similar. You could say we're more similar. Yes, we have distinctions, proclivities, body chemistry, tendencies, talents. These are unique, as Mihai said, but the nature of essence itself is quite similar, really, whereas it's our personalities that become more and more distinct and more different and more in opposition to other personalities.
Another element through which this lie is happening, basically we are untrue to what's true in the deepest part of us. It's not just through wounding or something bad happened and it's an unsafe situation. It also happens through osmosis. Our parents are initially gods, and if father or mother, they already have these patterns of don't show emotions, be strong, don't let them see you, survive, don't feel. If the dad shows up like that through mirroring neurons, and this is evidenced by science, now the child is kind of becoming that. So there is this the transmission. There is a transmission of personality. And another component is that at the very first, this tree of not true and therefore lying, unwillingly, unconsciously, without any glimpse of noticing that, this starts from emotion. So basically the inauthenticity starts from some shock and a fear of an emotion, fear of experiencing someone's emotion, or a fear or some kind of sense that I need to push this down. I need to, this feeling, and for some people could be anger, some people could be sadness, some people could be fear, some people could be love and affection, some people could be, for everybody, shame is pushed down, as well as, so, and some of us, we have all of them. And so this happens at a very subconscious, fast level, that some emotion, which is natural as we are very young, this emotion is no, don't, it's not good. So this layer that the actual emotion is deemed to be wrong, and then there's the other level of the expression of it, because some of us, we have this, we can feel it internally. For some of us, we don't even feel it anymore because it's been pushed down, and some of us, we feel it but don't show it, don't express it. So there's these two layers and there is the essence has been squelched. There is, because from one angle, emotion, the limbic brain, when we are young, before we have all this cognitive stuff, the emotion is the expression of the essence. And the messing of it starts from the very beginning with this. The child learns that it's important to suppress, repress some feeling or the expression of some feeling. And then the whole other how to be and all of this construction comes on top of that.
Also, no one teaches us from a very young age how to be.
Yeah.
Just to be. And this doesn't even begin with manifestations, external manifestations. No one's encouraged, because why? Really, the life on earth, it's really about masks, teaching other masks how to behave. And then it's not just one mask. We have numerous masks. Some people have many masks. Some other people have fewer masks, but everybody has multiple masks. And it isn't a matter of just taking one off. You take one off, there's another one. There's one that's a little less lying, a little more authentic, but it's not yet the real thing. And then you take that one off, and you make your way back to being. But this is what is interesting, and this is true even in this inner work. No one can teach anybody else how to be. We talk about it. There are ideas, there are methods, there are practices, there are theories, there are techniques, there are retreats, there are this and that, but no one can teach you how to be. And if we can, the more we can be, being equals authenticity. Authenticity is really a byproduct of the degree to which we are true to our being, as our being. The more we, deep in our core, recognize who and what we are, and the more we can be that and manifest from there, then our manifestations, our behavior, our communication will become more what's called more authentic. But we can't try to just be more authentic for its own sake, as a better way of behaving. as a better way of appearing to other people. I need to be more authentic. I need to show my honesty or my feelings, whatever, more often. I need to tell people what I think. This is construed as ways of trying to be more authentic. But in fact, that's working at it from the wrong way round.
Yeah.
And that's why this topic is related to this work of awakening, self-remembering, self-realization. We're talking about being ultimately. And the same is true of lying. We can't help but lie if we're not true in our being. As Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. You could even maybe say it, as thine own self be true. And then the rest will. And thou canst not then be false to any man. It's a powerful thing he wrote there. And when it's the same with lying, we can't just try to stop lying. And that's what Gurdjieff was pointing out. It's impossible if you just try to stop lying because you haven't gotten to the root down in the iceberg. We are so attached to these masks. We have this mask, and then our essence, this ethereal essence, gets stuck to the mask. And now it thinks it's the mask, and this mask is, every time it opens its mouth, it's lying, or it's in some fashion, it's misrepresenting
Yeah.
the being.
Yeah.
And it doesn't know any better because the being is identified, and being very early, essence very early on is taught, this is who I am. I'm the mask that I wear, or the masks I wear.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't know any better. It's naive in this regard, this simple being in us, which is what essence is. And it's from there that the awareness, the consciousness inherent in it can realize itself more and more deeply and be itself. And then the mask becomes an instrument for that. Instead of being an identity that displaces and appropriates this essence, it just becomes then a conduit. We are wearing masks right now as we talk. And we are using these masks as conduits to communicate about a subject. But what is manifesting here is not being. Maybe it's a manifestation of being, a byproduct of being, but it's not. Being is being. Being is not the, do you know, it's related, Mihai, I was thinking recently about how we have our moments of silence sometimes during our group meetings. And I was thinking, we're not trying to be silent. We're trying to be the silence beyond the mind, beyond the inner chatting, beyond the person. We're not trying to be the person being silent. We're trying to be the silence beyond the person. And it's the same thing in this with lying or authenticity. We're not trying to be authentic just to be authentic. We're trying to be the being.
Mm-hmm.
And then from here, once we know what being is, and it's strange maybe to say it, once we trust it, it trusts itself more. There's no need for lying. And then the byproduct is more authenticity. So once again, it's not a matter of trying to change the result without understanding what the cause is, the source.
Very rich what you said, but there was some point, and you said early in what you said here is that there's some issue that we haven't been taught how to be, and I would say we haven't been taught this basic training how to educate a little boy early on, what to do with their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't received that. And early on now is this agenda to push early on development of the cognitive with learning letters and numbers and learning names and forms. But the emotional body, which is our essence, is not that. We don't get an emotional training here. And that is a big cause. And we get this emotional training of wrong training, as well as the educators, they themselves don't know what to do. They are either justifying their emotions or wallowing in it or identifying with it or suppressing it or avoiding them. So we are we are steeped in this emotional wrong training.
And even parents, I mean, I can speak as a parent. There is no handbook for how to raise a child. And even we did read a number of books, but these books go in and out of fashion, how to
Yeah.
raise children in a proper way. And uh, it, what's interesting too, there is no single formula for everyone because each child, each essence is different, is distinct. And they are similar to different kinds of flowers, and they each bloom differently and under different circumstances of light and soil and water and nutrients. Each child needs different things at different times, and there's no handbook, and it's not a science how to influence another child, a child in another child, how to influence a child, because we are children in our essence. It's funny I said that, but it's a curious that we live in this world and this is not known about very well. And even psychology, science, medicine, all of these, they have ideas about this. They know there's something missing. And you see the same thing in the educational system. There are things sorely missing in the education, and it's not getting better. It's not improving. And children and teenagers and young adults and adults are under more pressure than ever, it seems, in their personality, in relation to personality and these masks, and considering that the belief that we are this mask gets stronger and stronger, and we become more and more desperate. And people are becoming more and more desperate psychologically because their essence, they don't know their essence, and their essence doesn't know itself. And it's not, we're not being nurtured. And essence, I would say, doesn't even necessarily need to be loved. It needs space to be. And from there, that is real love for essence. Give essence space to be. How often do we give each other the space, the psychological, physical, emotional space just to be? It's very rare. And the result is we end up lying, meaning deceiving ourselves and deceiving, not lying as in I told you a lie, I didn't tell you the truth. It's much
Yeah.
bigger than that. That's one of the tiny pieces of ice on the tip of the iceberg, that kind of lying.
The whole work, the whole false personality is a lie. Um,
I would say yes, what it is the imaginary picture of oneself, this imaginary sense of I inside, that is the lie. And then what we call false personality is all the behavior that manifests from that, that comes from that, that's due to that. False personality, you could say, is this external manifestation of the lie of imaginary I, which is internal. And yes, this is complex and deep and intricately connected, all of this. And it's curious that it's not thoroughly understood. And partly because the emphasis isn't put on the being, it's put on the behavior aspect. Don't lie, do well, be a good person, etc., etc. Don't show your feelings. It's all put on this personality. And then we end up lying more and more to ourselves.
although I agree with you that there's no recipe, there's some training that we should have got, but we didn't get, and there are some core principles that will diminish a lot if we were to have young kids. But the ultimate thing as a parent is to first undo this in oneself, because the kids will learn from not what we say, but what we are. And in my case, okay, I'll give you this example. Also, there are some books actually. There's this book called The Continuum Concept, which was written in the 80s or 90s, where it was a psychoanalyst or psychotherapist woman, friend from France. She noticed that there is something not right with how the kids turn up these days. And she decided to embark on this project and spend 10-15 years in various tribes that were still close to tribal cultures where there was much less false personality and they were more in essence. And she spent years with different important tribes, and she watched closely how the tribe or the parents would handle the child in various stages of development. And she was amazed, and she would see that those were very simple things where the children will end up what's called with secure attachment and confident, meaning that I find my place here. I can have healthy relations, and I have a sense of, hey, I can do this, and it's okay, and I'm adventuring, yeah. And she broke it down in various things to do and not do, in order to foster this, to not mess them up. She basically realized we are messing them up with some wrong instructions. So I recommend this book, The Continuum Concept. But in terms of emotion, there was this, I appreciate Thomas Hubel. He both is a mystic, enlightenment, teaching, but as well as a lot of experience with trauma and working with people. And he gives this example that even a wonderfully sweet, emotional, available, educated father, good father, can create the wrong teaching. I'll give an example. Little Johnny is 3-year-old and wakes up and goes to a daddy, and he's like, Daddy, Daddy, I'm afraid. Daddy, Daddy, I'm afraid. There's a monster under my bed. Yeah? Now, the good father is going to say, Johnny, there's no reason to be afraid, because there's no monster under the bed. You see, look, there's no monster. There's no reason to be afraid. And although this is sweet and innocent, this invalidates their emotional experience somehow. And Thomas, he was recommended that if little Johnny comes to you like that, first of all, be open and present to his emotion. Don't right away try to identify the reason why that emotion is wrong. Just meet that and say, oh, you're really scared, Johnny, huh? Scary. Okay. And allowing space for that. And then maybe asking another question. And then you can come with like, oh, Johnny, but let's check if there is a little monster. And then the little Johnny goes and is like, oh, Daddy, I'm really afraid because it's there. And then the father, conscious father, attuned, is teaching him about emotions. Oh, it's really scary still, huh? Where do you feel this? Oh, Daddy is here. It's here. Okay, it's okay. I'm here with you. I'm here with you. You are afraid, and I'm here with you. And here, I will look first. I'm going to look. See? So you see, going through this, the same process, but having them, teaching them about this. And now, replace sadness. That Johnny's pet dies. And then before rushing into getting another pet or to something, to meet that. So some of the right teaching is, I wish we got, is that, hey, especially at the child essence, any emotion is okay. It is okay. And I am meeting it. I am allowing it as an adult. And I'm thus modeling how you can handle the intensity of that. And then using the cognitive with developing this stuff. And for me,
I think that part of the difficulty, I mean, those are all wonderful. I have seen some of those, and I can say from being a parent, it is in the real world of raising a child, there's so many things that happen.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about what you're describing, I think, Mihai, one dimension of it is, you can't teach someone how to be conscious when they're young. This is interesting. You can do these things to encourage essence, support essence, foster, let's call it a right development of essence. Ideally, in an ideal world, you can do that. But you can't render that essence conscious. Somehow the personality develop. This is why the personality has to develop as this mask, and then that can act as a foil for essence, for consciousness, against which, by virtue of seeing that it's not the mask, it can realize what it is. Because ultimately, this essence is not the person. It's not it manifests through the person, but ultimately it's this rarefied awareness. and it's not tangible, it's not visible, it's not palpable, it's not tactile, it's not, it is indefinable, indescribable, this thing called awareness. We speak about it so often as though it were a thing, but this awareness you can't even say what it is, really. And yet it needs something against which to realize itself. And that's where personality does come in. And that's where personality does have a role to play. Somehow, this life of human life on earth is designed in such a way as to allow awareness to realize itself. And it has to do with this vessel of the human being, the human body, the human mind, this essence, and even the development of personality, false personality, even in extreme, sometimes in very extreme ways, it seems to sometimes even be an advantage. Think of the conversion of St. Paul. That's what that depicts. He went from the complete opposite to sudden awakening, a realization, saw through the illusion of being Paul, and saw all of his opposition to trust in something higher and belief in something higher and desire for something higher. He saw through that the illusion of Paul that was denying him the very thing he wanted to be, his being. So, and that's just an extreme symbolic case, but it's interesting that we need this foil of personality, and lying is a part of that. And lying is also the fourth way. It's one of the obstacles, so-called obstacles, and they're all related, really, in the end, when you look at them. Negative emotions are a lie. Inner considering is an aspect of lying. It's a result of this lying and the fear of showing, being seen, that develops. For example, unnecessary talk is often correlated with lying. And all of them are tied up in imagination and identification.
Yeah.
And the antidote to all of them is presence, more being, learning how to be. But these are the foils against which presence can come into focus, realize itself, recognize itself.
Hmm. Yeah, I resonate with it, because for a kid, it's not a time to teach them how to do mindfulness, especially not early on. There can be a modeling of the father saying, hey, that is sad now.
Mm-hmm. Or
Because,
to see daddy meditating.
yeah,
Hi, daddy, what are you doing? Nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
But, and yes.
But I want to stay there. I have a little make a point. The lack of emotional the training how to be with emotions is far-reaching, and almost everybody that I meet, including myself, they had this wrong training, and then I come to the fourth way, and then I come to non-duality, and I meditate for hours, and it was good on top of wrong emotional training, and
Hmm.
uh, my point here is that there needs to become a time, even if you're adult, if you're adult, to this some kind of reparenting, as a conscious reparenting of this emotional body. And for me, after many years of doing self-remembering, fourth way work, advanced deep work, I had deep areas of they were not grown up, and I was running the unconscious programs of my ancestors. I was doing this being present and presence and all of this sophisticated stuff, while in my psycho-somatic, in the machine, in the being, there were all these things. I have to be strong, but I wasn't aware of it. That's the thing. I have to be strong. I shouldn't show emotions. I have to be guarded. I need to be cautious, and then I need to be careful and don't show, don't express. And my work was, and then a lot of lying and hiding. And then my conscious work couldn't go very far because I had this big snag. And it was very helpful through a period of years, through work, being with other wise men or women, or through certain shamanic journeys, where I was taught experientially this, like, hey, Mihai, hey man, this is okay. Can you just let it be? Let it be as sad as it wants. This pain, don't avoid it, man. It's okay. I'm here for you. Can you fully allow this? And hey, can you tell me what's going on? Can you being real? So this, I needed years of this. And that was extremely helpful because, yeah, I was suppressing emotions. I was afraid of emotions. And then in terms of relation, meaning our relationship, intimate relationship with spouse and all of that, that is a school, that is a training. I don't agree with teachers that say, well, it doesn't matter. Just remember yourself as much as you can. Your relationship doesn't matter. No, the relationship is a zendo where everything plays out. And even now, I have with my partner, it's hard. I can see that although I'm able to be honest and real, I can feel emotions and this or that, there's still residual pattern of my ancestors, of various things, that of not being vulnerable, not really saying certain things for fear of upsetting her, for fear of don't stir the boat, don't create conflict, don't do this, don't do that, which is the child in me. So actually my partner, we have this exercise now, which is really edgy for me. We have this, she says, okay, tell me something real and vulnerable today that is probably hard for you to do. And each time it is hard. And I can see all this, yeah, this, I could say this, but I'm afraid. And all of this coexists with, I have a really deep, solid understanding of my true self. And I'm pretty present a lot of the time. And this coexists. And then it's last few days, each day going this, being vulnerable and seeing how hard it is. And that is the conscious work, not to now be guarded and just look and be present to the sounds and be aware of being. This is good, but I need to do that, and it's helpful. And each time I do it, it's safe. I discovered that it is safe. So it was this kind of rewiring of this child that learned to be in a certain way. And this is an important aspect of the work. And I disagree with the thing that just be knowingly the being and everything will fall into place. That didn't happen for me. And that thing, when the partner says, let's be vulnerable and let's share, because I'm lucky there's a wise partner. She's wise, she's in the work. Yeah, we can help each other. And there comes this that I that comes, that is what needs to be seen through and unpacked. So that's very much, and that is a separate I that is still having some residue of this operating in separation. That's why in my understanding of the work, it is to have the map of the fourth way, non-duality, mindfulness, this or that, but as the bigger picture. But then there's some correcting of what we didn't get in childhood, this correcting. And we talked last time, this integrity is foundational, keeping one's word. And Ken Wilber was talking about this in the past. In a lot of these deep teachings, there's this waking up. Buddhist Zen talk about waking up work. But he realized, although he was a deep Zen master and committed to a tradition, he realized that in our modern days, there needs to be this area of, waking up, but also growing up as an essence, and cleaning up. And then they need to kind of coexist. And the Eastern teachings, they're a little weak, at least how they've been extracted now. We have a bunch of books. We don't have the master. We don't have the monastery. there's some knowledge that is mostly on the waking up aspect.
I do appreciate something Gurdjieff said, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, if you remember, Mihai, he said, real I is essence, grown up and mature.
Yes. Real I.
Which equates with being. Or he may have said, yes.
Yeah, no, that's what he said. The real I, which is I guess it's a term.
Consciousness.
Purpose of the work is for that consciousness to be recognize itself, and for that to be the master of the house. That is the ruling faculty, and it's not just, hey, there is being, but then as a person I'm doing all kind of crazy shit that I feel bad about and I can't help doing them, but I know it's not aligned with my value. Real I has this ability that the ship is the ship and the house is working in order, and the essence is active, false personality is passive. Now, this being said, we live in a society where the government or governments usually, or medical system or financial system or entertainment system, a commercial system, are not having our best interest in mind. I'll put it diplomatically. They are not having our best interest in mind, and they could even be criminal. Yeah? So part of being awake in a world where the systems are a lot criminal, then it is necessary being honest and sweet and naive and innocent and telling everything to everybody all the time. That is wrong, and that's going to be a lot of problems. So therefore, we may need to, that's what is called in the work, the true work personality over true personality. We need to have a layer of a mask, but that is consciously designed, that protects my essence and protects the work, and is interfacing with toxicity and ignorance. That is important too.
Yes, being a conscious actor. Being the consciousness behind the mask and knowing you're holding the mask up, those masks that have a little stick, and knowing you're consciously here behind the mask, and but you're not Peter, a person behind the mask. Your awareness behind Peter, which is the mask, and you're knowingly interacting in certain situations. And in many ways, from the reading I have done, not a lot, but more in depth perhaps than many people, the Stanislavski method of acting, which originated in Russia, was based on this more closely along the lines of being present, being the presence behind the performance. It was, of course, like as with so many things, starts with a more conscious flavor, let's say, and then became a method, became a technique, and then it became the mask trying to be a mask, and so on. But yes, conscious acting, that's another rich topic.
Another, I would say, a tricky practice in the fourth way work, and could be misused and could be used by the false personality. And however, it's worth mentioning. This is called what Gurdjieff called intentional insincerity. So from one angle, it's talking about working, the lying as an obstacle. At the same time, there's this intentional insincerity as a way of conscious the right appropriate action in a certain context for the well-being of the work. That's something to put on the table. And also this is connected to the fact that the fourth way, and especially the fourth way that was coming to the West 100 years ago, Gurdjieff was doing this work while there was the Russian Revolution, where people were killed, and there were a lot of world wars, several world wars, and mass psychosis and mass murdering. And he was trying to bring this work to people in a context of very dangerous, ignorant time of deep ignorance. Said it twice. And therefore, basically the highest, most conscious thing to do in order to teach this to the right people was to have this intentional sincerity with various governments, various authorities, he had to travel for various countries that wanted to kill everybody. They thought that you are a spy, or they thought you are like this. This idea of that it is not, the fourth way is not in a monastery, and it is not in an ashram, it's not in this safe space. It is happening in the midst of humanity. And although, from one angle, at least in California where we are, is much better than Russia 1920, 1930, at the same time, it is not kingdom of heaven here, man. And especially, as I said, dealing with criminal society, in a certain way, it is good to be smart while also being in integrity. Another aspect of intentional sincerity is that shows up in our group is that now we learn about these exercises, we learn about these things, and then now the enthusiastic, newly converted recruit, so to say, is now, I'm going to share with people, I'm going to share with my parents, with my spouse, I'm going to talk to them or push the work down their throat, although they are not interested in it. I'm going to photograph them, give them feedback about their ego. And that is or even trying to explain to them how amazing this work it is that we discovered, and trying to have them be into it. And then we are engaging in debates. So that is important to not do that. That is just unnecessary talk. It will bounce back in our face. And it's important to have this discriminating, and to talk about the work only with people that are really interested in the work. And even if some people at work, at your job, they are acting from false personality and this or that, or expressing negative emotion, we have no business calling it, judging them from the point of view of the work that they don't share. And actually, some people will be interested in the work, but there's a very fine line there. It's a fine art how to recognize that one of my friends is interested in awakening, but how not to be too much, how not to push it too much, the agenda, because then it will draw them away from the work, and just to feel and just add a little something or give a little book. It's a whole art form how to be discriminant, sensitive, conscious, while being honest and real.
And to bring this back to the topic of lying, the truth is, and this is where intentional insincerity can come in, not in an arrogant way, but in a true way. And that is that many people cannot understand the truth. They're not ready for you to say the truth in the moment, even the truth, no, I don't want to come to your party. They can only understand a lie. And to say, oh, I'm so sorry, we're busy that evening. Because you're not doing it out of inner considering necessarily. It depends on who it is, of course. You're not doing it out of inner considering. You realize, well, just what I said. Some people are not ready, and it's true of all of us. Sometimes we're not ready to hear the truth. We can only understand the lie. And this intentional sincerity, this tool, this technique, this psychological approach, which Gurdjieff proposed, is based on this: knowing who you're talking to and knowing the circumstance and putting on the appropriate mask for the occasion, doing it consciously, not to deceive, to mislead, to be corrupt in some way, take advantage of someone, but understanding the truth has its place, and the complete truth has its place, and the incomplete truth has its place.
Yeah. All right, Peter and listeners, I feel complete with these 3 episodes on lying and all the aspects. And Peter and myself, we are engaging in groups and one-on-one work to support this work, and know that although watching videos and trying to apply, it's an important part of the work. That may not be enough. So if you resonate with this kind of teaching or with us, feel free to reach out and join us if it is for you. We'll be happy to have people. It's wonderful when I meet people, even clients, they come to me, they come as a psychotherapist, but I can see from the intake and what they talk and what they say, I can see that what they are really interested, they are interested in the truth. They have a nagging feeling that there is more out there. They have a strong magnetic center, the seeking thing. So it's wonderful to meet people that I feel their hunger and this genuine, and to meet that, we can see ourselves in that, and we are here.
Yes, many times when people are suffering, if it might even be fair to say in almost all cases, certainly not all, suffering and pain and hardship, all these difficulties, they're all ringing the bell for truth, but they don't know where to find, because no one has taught them how to be. And these are the lost in the wilderness. But all of these things that happen to us, I see it more and more. They are signals. They're telling us, come home, ring the bell, find the way back home to your inner being. Everyone has this inner being, this thing we talk about all the time, and want to find the way back there.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mihai.